I was born, bred, buttered. My entire life was
In
Lagos. The furthest I'd gone out of Lagos was Ota to Covenant University. My parents were already in the UK.
Yeah.
My younger brother was already in the UK, and I was living my life in Nigeria. I was having the time of my life. Why would I want to go to the UK? I've been a couple of times already. We had beach parties every Saturdays. I had a car, I had a house, my boys were coming. Like, why would I want to leave Nigeria? People listening to this need to understand Demola at Covenant University. I was a rebel. I learned how to follow the rules and how to bend the rules a little bit to my own advantage. My younger brother is one of those guys that is always very excited when he hears any good news about you, and he just keeps asking you questions and and so he asked me about the job at Zenith Bank, and he asked me about the salary, and he said, yeah, what's the conversion in pounds? And I told him. I said, bro, man, you need to leave. I came with a few pounds then, and my entire pounds that I came with finished in like maybe 2 months.
So this is you from a Lagos big boy, apartment driven in Yaba, black tinted bullet driven, to working in a factory.
I was working in a factory, my guy. Like, I needed the money. When I wanted to propose to my girlfriend at the time, I took a second factory job so I could buy the ring.
Welcome again to the Immigrant Success Story, your wonderful, awesome podcast. I remain Oluwadejara. On this episode, I've got a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine. I've known him for 21 years exactly today that we're recording. Extremely dependable friend, always there. I can't say more, in terms of how much esteem I hold him. Welcome to the podcast, Ademola Paseda.
Thank you very much for having me, Muiwa.
Thank you for joining us.
Do I call you Muiwa today? Do I call you Eski?
Well, anyone you want to call me. Okay. Anyone you want to call me, I'll take it.
All right. I'll probably be flipping between Eski and Muiwa.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm really, really glad that you can make it. Yes. So we're going to start with some quick fire questions.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you 2 to 3, and then you've got 30 seconds to give me an answer. Okay. So what movie, book, or TV show changed your life?
A TV show or movie?
Or a book?
Movies. I think the one movie that has had the most lasting impression on my life is The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird that I actually say that now after all of what is going on with Will Smith and
I know.
That movie is probably had the most impact in my life. In terms of book, it's actually a book I'm reading right now, called Solve for Happy by Mo Gwadat. He used to be Chief Business Officer at Google X. So those are the two, but that's the book and that's the movie.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. What do you wish you'd learned sooner?
Oof, that's a good question. I think a bit more on-demand kind of skills, because I don't know, maybe we'll get to it, but obviously when you live in the UK, there's certain skills that are worth having, carpentry, electrical. I wish I'd learned a lot of that a lot sooner, because we had the opportunity back home, but we just paid people to do things.
I know. I can imagine. Actually, let's not even go there. Yeah, I know. I can tell what. Okay, so the last one I had is, if you could take 3 items on a desert island, what would that be?
So I would want at least 1 book. I would want water.
Yeah.
To last me for a while.
Yeah.
And if I can, I would like a mattress to sleep on.
Interesting. I don't know what you and so on our second episode, which we interviewed Akin, I don't know if you get. It felt like you said the same.
Oh, really?
That's quite strange. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so you're off the seat. No
Okay.
more quick fire questions. Now you can relax. So let's go into this proper. So who is Ademola Paseda? For people that don't know you, who are you?
Oof, that question there. So Demola Paseda is the son of Aino and Ademola Paseda. I was born in Nigeria,
Yeah,
22nd of October, 1984.
that's
I was
tomorrow.
tomorrow, yeah.
That's what we're recording today. Yeah.
I was born in Lagos, in Yaba to be precise.
Mhm.
I consider myself a true Lagosian, even though my parents originally are from Ogun State, but I'm a proper Lagos boy. I've got a soft heart, and I think I enjoy people's company a lot, even though I consider myself an introvert. So it's quite weird. Right from when I was young, I could stay in a room, stay in the house by myself without having anybody. I enjoy my company, the company of myself. So yeah, that's why currently I'm a project manager within the e-com space, and I'm a father of 2 kids, and I have an absolutely amazing wife as well.
Yeah, I can testify to that. A shout out to you when you're watching this. Okay, so what was growing up like?
Oof, growing up was tough. I was born, like I said, I was born in Lagos, in Nigeria, and I practically lived in the same house all my life, in Bariga. Some people
Our
call
house.
it our house. People say, that house basically housed a lot of boys during uni and after uni. Growing up wasn't quite easy. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a civil servant working in Nitel. I knew my dad to be a very hardworking person while I was growing up. My mom was very hardworking, but certain things happened in life. When at some point my dad lost his job at Nitel. He got retired out of Nitel, and things got quite funny. Not funny and difficult. My dad basically, out of needing to provide for the family, became a downfall driver. It was so funny. I didn't really have a problem with it, but my younger brother had a serious problem with it, to the point where my dad volunteered to help transport some kids from his primary school where he was at the time, and my younger brother was meant to sit in front next to his dad. And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, come to the front, come and sit next to me." And my younger brother basically said, "I don't know you." So that was what.
Yeah, me.
that was what growing up was like. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, like I said, I'm an introvert, so I had loads of times where my mom would take my brothers to birthday parties and all of that, and I'll just sit down, at home by myself, because I really enjoy being by myself. But growing up was, I can't fault it. We didn't have everything we wanted, but we had enough.
Yeah. All right, good. And then primary school, secondary school, was that in Lagos as well?
Yes. So pretty much, I'm one of those guys here that never left Lagos until
much later. Okay.
I never left Lagos. So primary school was at Grace Children's School in Bagada, very close to Charlie Boy's house back then. I used to go to Charlie Boy's house back then. So shout out to Charlie Boy. And from Grace Children's School, I also went to, I left Grace Children's School, I went to St. Gloria's in Maryland, Ikeja. At the time, they were top schools, and probably still are right now. That's where all the, what we call Ajabota kids, that's where the kind of schools they used to go to. And so you can imagine the huge shock for me, having gone to schools where I'm kind of wrapped in the cotton wool. Everybody there is Ajabota and all of that, and then I find myself in the Bobi College. So I went to Bobi College between 1994 and year 2000, and it was a massive, massive shock for me when I got into secondary school. The year before, so I'm one of those kids that did like common entrance a year early. I got into Mayflower. My parents said, you're too young. I was 8 years old. You can't go into secondary school. So the next year, when I was meant to go, I couldn't get any nice school. So all I could get was Bobi College. And the first day at Bobi College, I got beaten. I got beaten, you know, because I got into the school and everybody was basically speaking Yoruba, and I was there speaking, yeah, what you guys talking about? And you know, they said, listen, you're new, you have to, there was a tradition, if you're new, you have to fight with the strongest person in the class.
So it's to get the territory.
For it, exactly. So I said, yeah, no problem, I'll fight with him. And from St. Gloria's, the only kind of fight that I knew was, you know, character, you know. So needless to say, I got ass whooping that day. You know, I had swollen eye, everything, the full work. So, yeah, but Igbobi College, yeah, is where a lot of who I am got formed. Being in that kind of environment was it's not an easy environment to be in, but it is where I got formed. Is where I learned a lot of soft skills being there, how to survive in the territory where you're not necessarily the strongest person, not the smartest person, but how to, you know, I learned quote unquote cunningness in that environment.
Okay, so that's you know, what we've picked up. So that's you going into Igbobi College, and then you finished. Then what did you want to do? You know.
So when I was at Igbobi College, yeah, initially, so when I was quite young, GS1, between GS1 and GS3, so that's between the ages of 9 and 12, thereabout. I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
For those who know me very well, you know I'm quite argumentative.
I can't tell.
And I tend to talk, you know, I'm very opinionated. And so I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I have a very, very close relationship with my grandma, who is about 105 years old now.
Shout out to Mama. Always feeding us.
Amazing woman. And so I had a chat with her, and she said, no, I cannot be a lawyer. I said, why? Apparently our brother was a lawyer, got killed. You know the way Nigeria is, you know. And so she said, no, you can't be a lawyer. So the next thing I wanted was accounting. And so I had a little introduction into accounting in junior secondary school, and I was like, nah, this is boring, I don't want to do this. And then for a very long time I was floating, I didn't know what I wanted, you know. Eventually I got into science class, and I think that was the beginning of .NET and the stories of Bill Gates. And I said, you know, that computer thing, that's what I want. So at that point I said, you know, I wanted computer science, anything that had to do with computers, I wanted to do. And you know, the rest is history.
So in terms of university choice, did you how did you land in the university that I know you went to?
Okay, so after leaving Igbobi College, you know, finished, I had all my
O levels, GCSE equivalent.
So in Nigeria, obviously you had WAEC, and then luckily for me, the year I was meant to leave secondary school, we had a new examining body called NECO. So I didn't have all my WAEC, I had all my NECO, but I had enough, you know, GCSE results to get into university. But then you also had to write JAMB. So I written JAMB the year before, and I didn't do very well. That was when I was still in SS2 before my last class.
So JAMB is a qualifying examination in Nigeria to get into universities.
So I didn't do very well. I got maybe 180 something. And then the next year, you know, when I was supposed to actually write it, you know, I got a good score, you know, 230 something thereabout. And the plan was to go to LASU. No, actually the plan was to go to Ife, University of Obafemi Awolowo University in Ife. My score was high enough to get into Ife that year to study computer engineering. However, that was the year where there was a strike action the year before, and so the students that were meant to get into school that year couldn't get into that school. So
it was just from the previous year.
The previous year couldn't get into the school, and so they basically said, we'll take 70% or something from the previous year, 30% of you from this year, the rest of you go back and write JAMB and come back next year. So that basically took me, my score wasn't high enough at that point because it became very competitive. So the next option, my second option was LASU. And it was in LASU that I learned what they actually called national character in Nigeria. Because I had the score high enough to get into computer engineering in LASU. I was adamant it had to be computer engineering. So I had a good score to get into computer engineering in LASU. However, because my state of origin
Mm.
was Ogun State,
Mhm.
I couldn't get in. So you had people who had far less scores than I had that actually got in, and I was extremely frustrated that I couldn't get into LASUDA year. It was so bad. I think that was probably my first episode of what people term depression now. But I was extremely sad, very unhappy. I just felt my life was crumbling at the time.
Okay, so I guess when those federal universities didn't work out, then how did you land in?
So I landed in Covenant University. Is that where we're going? I landed in Covenant University. I was so depressed. Yeah, I was so sad. Let me know. I think I'm using the word depression quite loosely, but I was very, very sad. I had a very good relationship with my uncle, who happened to be, at the time, was a deacon in Winners Chapel, and we were very, very close. And he saw how sad I was. I'm like, oh, there's this new school, Winners Chapel, blah blah blah, and whatnot. And I said, I don't know about that. I'll just wait the next year. I was enjoying my life anyway. I was sad. And so I wrote CUSATs back then at Ian Paja, and they said I passed. They said I passed, and I passed. Apparently, they said I did very well. I could get into computer engineering. So I was like, all right, yeah, why not? So that was how I landed in Covenant University. It was in, like my wife went to Covenant as well. She chose to go to Covenant University. I never chose to go to Covenant. I think that's probably the same, the story with most founders in Covenant University. And so that's how I got into Covenant University, really.
And then you studied computer engineering. Yeah. So, okay, so Covenant University. How was university life like? Did you enjoy it?
In hindsight, yeah, and based on where I am today mentally, I think I had the time of my life.
Yeah.
I think I had a blast. In my own way. Obviously, but I think the people listening to this need to understand Demola at Covenant University. I was a rebel. Like I said, very opinionated. But I learned how to follow the rules and how to bend the rules a little bit to my own advantage. But Covenant University was a thrill for me. They were obviously like most people, and you would have that in any university, in any experience, any organization where there'll be certain experiences that were below par.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of those experiences that were below par. Hopefully we don't get into them, but I had a lot of those experiences. But Covenant University for me was a blast. I was opinionated, like I said, and I was that guy that would always, I would speak, when I felt like things were being done, quote and unquote, based on my knowledge at the time and the wisdom at the time, when I felt things were being done unjustly. I remember at Covenant University, when they banned jeans, for example, that I, up till today, I still don't understand the reason for banning jeans, because and we had a meeting with like a student party thing, where I went up and I spoke, and my argument was, it's a fabric.
Yeah.
Jean in itself, it's a fabric. If people choose to abuse the fabric and make designs out of that fabric, don't blame me on jeans. Yeah. Some of us just wear jeans, we love jeans, and so people tend to, knew me from then and were like, who is that guy with the big mouth? Even in class, massive shout out to Dr. Atairo, one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And I found out that many years after I'd left, he had my name in his course notes.
Really?
Many years after I'd left. In fact, not up till he stopped teaching, my name was in his course notes. And what Dr. Terry said to me was, then I would ask some really silly questions, because I really wanted to get to the nitty-gritty, especially when we started doing things like digital electronics. Those were subjects that I was really interested in. And I would ask those questions, and people used to wonder, I'm sure back then a lot of people used to wonder, I think yourself is inclusive, people wanted to go back to the hostel, and then who's this idiot man that keeps asking
Access
questions and
questions.
keeping us in the class. And so me and him developed a very, very good relationship back then, to the point where I think he coined the term "free your mind." That back
I
then.
remember.
So Covenant University, there was the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I just choose to remember the good.
Excellent. So you and I were roommates. Yeah?
Yes, we were.
And there was something that I picked up those times we were roommates.
Yeah.
Where did the place of poetry come from? Because I just couldn't understand. You wrote so much.
Yes.
And I didn't get where did that come from?
So like I said, right from when I was young, I love to spend time with myself. I enjoy those solitary moments, and in those moments, all sort of things go past my mind. It's a dance between myself and my mind. And it's kind of funny because the book I'm reading currently, by Mo, talks about how your mind is a person. It's actually a person that you communicate with, and I think as we grow up, we kind of lose that touch. But when I was a lot younger, and even when we were in Covenant University, where I was carefree, but then me and my mind were constantly communicating, and so when I write poems, and it was basically based off the conversation I'm having with my mind. I would look at things sometimes and I want to really analyze those things and get to the reason of those things. And the best way I knew how to express myself then was writing poems and trying to
The only
write.
thing that got me upset then is so then my then university girlfriend, it was Valentine. I asked this guy for a poet for me to put in my Valentine gift, and he didn't write it for me.
Yeah, but the thing is with the poem, it had to come in naturally. It had to come in naturally. So, and I remember that request, but it just I wrote poems to other girls.
I know you did. Yeah.
But it just didn't come naturally. That's why I still enjoy writing. I don't write as much as I used to, but I still enjoy it.
Okay, so let's fast forward to taking a look at. I know at some point your mom relocated to the UK and you were still in Nigeria. So, how was that? Growing up without, obviously your dad was there, but obviously your mom was here and you were back in Nigeria. How did you manage?
So to be fair, my dad was only there for about 6 months or a year after my mom left. So I was basically by myself in Nigeria, and I think it was fantastic. I had no parental supervision. I could do whatever I liked. My grandmom, you know what grandmoms are like, rite of passage, to a large degree. Even though she will cuss me out when I do something she doesn't like, but it was nice. I had school, so I was in school, 9 months of the year thereabout, and then at home 3 months of the year. 9 months officially. Obviously, no. We're never always in school anyway.
And I know you then, at some point you visited the UK whilst you were still in school. And I can't forget, which is why I say you're a very, very dependable person. This guy bought me my first ever UK shirt, even though it was Primark or something.
No, it wasn't Primark.
It was Pericadine.
It was Pericadine from Sports Direct.
Oh, we see.
It was from Sports Direct, I remember. Yeah. So when I came then, I was like, no, my roommate has to get something.
And that's how awesome. And I remember I still wore that shirt while I worked as a...
Oh, really?
Yes. It must be somewhere in the book. Because I got it to the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it must be somewhere in my garage right now. That's how much. I'm a little bit of an hoarder. So, okay, so let's take it. So you finished university and then you had, there's this national service that we do in Nigeria, and then I know you went, where was that? How was that experience?
Come on, man, you're going to make me spill the brain. So I got deployed to Bayelsa.
Yeah.
Permit me.
Yeah.
On this one, yeah. So like I said, yeah, I was born, bred, buttered. My entire life was Lagos. The furthest I'd gone out of Lagos was Ota to Covenant University,
which is like 20 miles.
And I think maybe at some point Ibadan, when we had that Ibadan corridor. So this was the first time I was really going out of Lagos. Yeah. And so I already had my plans. Before I left home to Bayelsa, I was never going to stay in Bayelsa, and this is me being completely honest. I was never going to really stay in Bayelsa. I had plans to come back, and I think my NYSC really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I really didn't fully understand about Nigeria. I think if you asked a lot of people who were born, bred, and buttered in Lagos, like myself, who'd never been out of Lagos, there is a misconception that Lagos is Nigeria and Nigeria is Lagos. And so when we have a lot of people speaking to us back then, and I've always been a skeptic about a lot of things. And one of the big skepticism I have is towards motivational speakers. And so and that started to grow when I went to Bayelsa, because we're told about Nigeria 2020, is it 2010, Vision 2010?
Vision 2020, which is now past. And to me, I'm not gonna lie, I bought it. I bought into it. When I got to Bayelsa and I saw for the first time in my life people with leprosy. I'd never seen it before in Lagos. I saw a different side to Nigeria in Bayelsa that I'd never seen in Lagos before. Now, don't get me wrong, there's poverty in Lagos. Yeah? But I saw a different dimension to poverty when I went to Bayelsa. And then I just thought to myself, I don't understand the 2010 vision anymore. So Bayelsa was fantastic. I also had Emmanuel Onoja, one of my closest friends who served in River State in Port Harcourt, where we met a couple of times, and NYSC was fun. I enjoyed myself in camp. Like I said, I create my own world wherever I go to. So even in the camp, I created my own world in the camp, where I wanted to be by myself a lot of times. Other times I wanted to be with people. I probably went to my market 2 times, and stuff like that. But after NYC, after the orientation camp, I got a job in FCMB in Bayelsa, which was, for me at the time, a dream come true. FCMB was one of the posh looking banks at the time, and I felt like, yeah, this is nice. But I'd already, before coming to NYC, when I got to camp, I'd already submitted a desire to relocate out of Bayelsa, and I'd forgotten about it. And then, lo and behold, I was building my life in Bayelsa. I'd rented an apartment in Bayelsa. In fact, there was a girl I was already chasing in Bayelsa. And I just got the letter to say, you need to go back to Lagos. During NYS, I was like, oh, man, now I'm going to go back to Lagos. What am I going to do in Lagos? And so I came back to Lagos, went to the NYC office in Lagos and said, okay, I've just been deployed back to Lagos. Can I just go back to FCMB? And the guy said, nah, man, we don't put coppers in FCMB in Lagos. I don't know what happened between FCMB and Lagos, whatever, but they said they don't put coppers in FCMB in Lagos. And what am I going to do? To cut the long story short, I can't remember. I found myself in Zenith Bank. And I served in Zenith Bank for the rest of my tenure doing NYSC. But for me, NYSC, I still think the idea behind the whole thing is fantastic. I enjoyed myself. It was an absolute pleasure for me to have served my country. Way. All right, good. So this is us now. You've gone to Bayelsa, we're back to Lagos. Then you worked at Zenith Bank, and by the way, Zenith Bank was one of the most prestigious of his, probably still is.
It was prestigious by name, not by salary.
I know, so that's a different thing to say because we were anyway. So you finished at Zenith Bank, and then did you work afterwards?
So after finishing the NYSC, the service program in Zenith Bank, I got retained.
Okay.
So I worked in the Idumagbo branch of Zenith Bank, which is, for those who know Lagos, Idumagbo is like a proper market inside Lagos Island, one of the busiest branches. I think second busiest branch of Zenith Bank, and I think is actually It's the second branch ever of Zenith Bank.
That's true.
Idumota was number one, Idumagbo was number two. And so after I finished at Idumagbo, I got retained at the time, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I had options to go back to soft solutions. Soft solutions, where I'd done my what's it called?
IT,
industrial
attachment,
which kind of was not a very good decision because we're back there now. We're kind of doing what I was running for is kind of what we're doing, and then I was probably one of the first people during the IT period. Then was one of the first people to start talking about cybersecurity back then, if you remember. But anyway, here I am at Zenith Bank Moloni. That was where I got started working, and I enjoyed Moloni branch. It was a fantastic branch. We have very lovely people. The branch head, the original branch head Valentine, amazing. The other branch that I had, Arietta, amazing. I had lovely colleagues. I had some really annoying colleagues, and I think there was this thing at the time that I felt that because I'm from Covenant University, there were certain expectations, and there was also a thing where I felt some people just wanted to try, and see what's this guy about. I remember someone, my immediate line manager at the time, the cash officer, trying to tell me to go and buy Bolly and granite for him, and he didn't like the response he got.
I can imagine the response.
Like me, like, are you joking? So he didn't like the response, and so we had that dynamics where a lot of the older people in the bank kind of appreciated what we brought to the table, but people that were around the same level as we were I don't know, just not very happy with us being there, and we were constantly wanting to question us. But yeah, Zenith Bank Moloni was
just good. Okay, so let's get out of that. So, at what point did you relocate to the UK?
Okay, so my parents were already in the UK.
Yeah.
My younger brother was already in the UK. And I was living my life in Nigeria. I was having the time of my life. Like, why would I want to go to the UK? I've been a couple of times already. We had beach parties every Saturdays. I had a car, I had the house, my boys were coming. Like, why would I want to leave Nigeria? However, I spoke to my younger brother once, and my younger brother is one of those guys that he's always very excited when he hears any good news about you, and he just keeps asking you questions and and so he asked me about the job at Zenith Bank, and I told him about, and he asked me about the salary. And I told him, and he said, yeah, what's the conversion in pounds? And I told him, I said, bro, man, you need to leave. Because at the time I think I was still in college at the time, and I was earning 4 or 5 times more what I was earning after graduating university. And he said, bro, no man, you need to leave. That's exactly how we said it to me there. And so he sowed that seed in me. And so in Zenith Bank, I met my wife there, by the way. And then we got talking, and we just felt like it's not working. And so I had an incident where I walked in the teller, like at Zenith Bank, and I had an incident where somebody had stolen a check. Whoever this guy is, God bless you, if you ever hear me. He had stolen a check from the church offering bucket, forged the signature, and he matched. It was perfect. There was no reason for me not to pay it.
Yeah.
So I paid it, and then like months and months and months after I'd forgotten about it, I got a letter or whatever saying I paid a check, and they called me into head office and all of that stuff. I got suspended. During the period where I got suspended, I realized that this is not for me. I need to make a move.
Yeah.
It wasn't originally about leaving Nigeria for me. we started applying to jobs, other jobs, at the time, applying to oil and gas companies,
Yeah.
but the name Paseda doesn't ring a bell anywhere. So there's no Paseda in government, so it just wasn't, it didn't happen for me. And so the next best thing was, let me go to where my parents are, let me go to a different climate. I'd been here, I knew that at least the system worked. And so that was why I chose to leave Nigeria.
Okay, so you've left Nigeria. Where did you land first? Where was?
So first I landed in my parents' house.
I mean, okay, so was that Birmingham or
Northampton?
The airport you landed in.
I landed at Heathrow.
Okay, Heathrow. Then
I took the bus.
Picked you up.
No.
Okay.
No. They told me to take the bus
Oh,
because I'd come a couple of times. I knew my way
true.
around. So I took the bus, National Express back then. Took the bus to Northampton. They picked me up from the bus station, and I was like, okay. I came with a few pounds then, and my entire pounds that I came with finished in I finished all my money maybe 2 months on train tickets. Because I came in, as a student, into Coventry University, and the original plan was, all right, Coventry is about half an hour away from Northampton. I can make the trip from Northampton to Coventry. But the first 2 months, £50 ticket every week,
doesn't work out. Yeah. So you eventually had to stay in Coventry.
I eventually had to stay in Coventry. Shout out to Unka Polobili.
Yeah.
So she was in Coventry, I think the year before me. She was leaving, and then our room became vacant, and she said, no, you can have my room. I had a room, and I started staying in Coventry. That house was it? Can I curse?
No, you're not allowed to.
All right.
Okay, so at Coventry, what did you study?
So I studied engineering business management.
What informed that?
What informed that? So it was funny, it wasn't very strategic. So I studied computer engineering in Coventry University. I'd worked in Covenant University. I'd worked in Zenith Bank. So I thought, you know what? Let's put business and engineering together, and let's see. I felt like it had a good ring to it. Also, I felt like, for a master's degree program, I wanted something that was management. I didn't just want a core subject or core course. I wanted something that was more management, inclined, and that's why I chose engineering business management. And also, I could afford Coventry University school fees.
Yeah. Okay, so coming out of Coventry, what was the next plan? What were you going to do?
All right, so I think there's a backstory before we get to coming out of Coventry. So while I was in Coventry, when I came to the UK and I knew I was doing a master's degree, the plan for me was to ace everything. And there was a conversation I had with you. I don't know if you remember.
I know.
And we said we're in Coventry. I'm in Coventry. I think you were in Salford.
I was in Salford. Yeah.
I was in Coventry University, and we said, listen, mate, the least you can do is top your class, get a distinction, because what's your excuse? You're not in Oxford.
Exactly.
So you're not in Oxford, you're not in Cambridge, you're not in any of the Russell groups, you're in little old Coventry. So if you can't get a distinction in Coventry, then so I worked myself like I'd never done before, and whilst I was doing that, I was applying to jobs as well. I didn't work as a student, but as soon as I finished, and I felt, okay, we're about to leave university, I started applying to jobs. I had a couple of interviews that felt like they were going to give me some sort of sponsorship visa. It never happened. And then eventually I got a job in TNT in the warehouse, doing manual.
So this is you from a Lagos big boy, apartment driven in Yaba, bullet driven, black tinted bullet driven, to working in a factory.
I was working in a factory, my guy. Like, I needed the money. And it wasn't just about the money. I just needed to work.
Yes.
And it was all I could find. And I think, I was also in the part of the country where there was little or no information flowing around. So back then, we didn't have phones like we did now. We didn't have the internet like we did now, where every of us are carrying this big device, this crazy device called the mobile phone that has so much information. We didn't have that like that. So I was in Northampton where everybody was either a nurse or a carer.
Mhm.
There wasn't nobody was telling me you can do anything. That was all I could get. Worked in the warehouse. In fact, at some point when I wanted to propose to my girlfriend at the time, I took a second factory job, and so
Upgrade yourself.
so I could buy the ring,
Oh.
so I could afford to buy a ring, So I took the second factory job, and I would work 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m. at night in the afternoon, and then resume my other shift from 6 p.m. in the evening till about 5:30 a.m. in the morning.
Mhm.
I'll take a quick wash my face, go back to the other job, and that's what I was doing while I was at TNT initially.
Yeah.
After a while, I then spoke to someone at TNT, and I said, "Oh, master's degree, by the way." I spoke to one of the bosses. I can't remember who it was. One of operations, head of operation. I said, "I have master's degree," and he kind of said, "Oh, this guy's quite bright," and so he took me from the warehouse, chucked me in the office, and so I turned to suit and tie from working in the warehouse.
Wow.
I became suit and tie, doing data entry
Mhm.
at the time in TNT, and yeah, that was my initial break into the workplace.
So we could say corporate England. That was
the entry.
That was
Yes.
the break. Okay. And from TNT, at this point in time, I'm guessing what was your visa status then?
Oh my God. At the time, I think I was now on post-study.
Okay.
So I was on post-study work visa. I had a 2-year post-study work visa, and at the time, I did not even know what next.
Mhm.
The next plan was, to get a sponsorship, and that was where all eggs were in that basket to get sponsorship. But it never happened, and so it was just one day at a time, constantly applying. I must have gone to at least during that period, and I'm not kidding, 300 interviews.
Wow.
Trying to get a proper job. I was constantly taking excuses from the job I had to get the job that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so it was constantly because I needed that sponsorship.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was what life was like then. It was hell, but yeah.
Okay, so taking a look at that, obviously sponsorship, as we've said, then it's not like now where sponsorship is everywhere for different sponsorship. That didn't work out.
No.
So what was the trajectory out of TNT? What next did you do?
All right, so obviously, as a economic migrant that I am, the route to your economic freedom or financial freedom is very dependent on the kind of visa status that you had. And so we started looking into things. A friend of mine, was one of the first people to get the breakthrough, and we read about the entrepreneurial visa route. And yeah, you needed £50,000, which at the time sounds like, now if £50,000, yeah, it's still a lot of money, but then it felt like £50 million to me.
Exactly.
And so you needed that much money, to be able to get the application and whatnot, and yeah, it was a complete, absolute mess. The application had issues when we put the application in. We had the money, so we were able to raise £50,000, but we had a problem where our savings was in my wife's account. So we were both doing 2 jobs. I was doing my job, she was doing that job. So my income went into maintaining the household. Our income went into savings. So we were saving every single thing she had. And everything was in the ISA. And so when it came to applying for the visa, the plan was, we would we'll make a joint account so we can apply using that account. And then she'd gone to America and come back, and then we had like 2 or 3 weeks to apply for the visa. And one said, "Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll just make me joint. I was the main applicant. Just make me joint signature on the account and whatnot." And then when we got to doing it, we discovered, God, our money was in the ISA account. You can't have a joint signatory on an ISA account. but we needed to put in the application. So we put the application
Like that.
something had to go in, and we put it in like that, and yeah, he spiraled into about 2 or 3 years of hardship for us.
Wow. And I mean, when you say 2 or 3 years, you're saying this is 2 or 3 years of rejections, appeals.
So this was it was one rejection. I think one appeal and a court case.
Wow.
We had to go to court. If you want to learn humility in this life, that kind of situation teaches you humility. We got to a point where obviously we couldn't work. I didn't have a job. My wife couldn't work because we didn't have the visa. And so we did the best thing we could do as children of Lagos. We printed our flyers for a cleaning business, and we started putting it through people's houses. And we started cleaning people's houses to the point where we actually cleaned one of our friends' houses and got paid for it back then. But we were very happy. We were very happy. We knew that it was a season. It was a phase in our life. We're gonna, even though we didn't know when or how we're gonna get out of that phase, we kind of knew what's gonna happen. And so we were happy, we had our son, as well, and we just felt it was hard, but we were very happy. I think it was the fact that at the time we'd set our expectation, and even though the event, because when the event and the expectation do not match, so when your expectation is greater than the event, that's when you become an unhappy person.
Yeah.
So if expectation is equal or greater than event, by the way, this is not me, this is Mughal, that by the way, that's the happiness equation.
Yeah.
That's when you're happy. But we're just all right because we knew we were going to come out of it. And and one of the other things that happened there was we knew a lot of people. One of them you've spoken to in your previous episodes. We knew people who were going through much worse situations. And ours was bad. It was really bad. But I think the saving grace was I had my parents here. And that was the saving grace that we had back then.
Wow. So when you look back at this time, what lessons have you, not so much lessons, how has it shaped you?
It like I said, it's taught me humility. So naturally, even though I do say so myself, I'm a very humble person. I'm quite conservative as well in financially. And I think all of those things, it reinforced my personality, if you get what I mean. And so some of the things that I would say it probably taught me then was to be a bit more proactive. I wasn't proactive about, visa. Right from when we came from Nigeria, we didn't think about what happens after your student visa ends. What's the next thing? I don't even think I knew about post-study then when I left Nigeria. When we got post-study, we didn't think what's the next step. So I think that what happened then made me a lot more proactive in the decision. So now even though now I'm kind of stopping that again, I started thinking more medium term. So right now I still don't think long term. I'm a short to medium term thinker, but then I was very short term. And now I think short to medium term. I think that's as a result of that situation.
Okay, that's so. I'm sure. Then you went to court, and then what happened?
So you said?
So then you went to the case went to the court.
We went to court. That was my first and last time in the court. I was shaking while I was in the court, but the first court date we had, you pay for the barrister per day. Yeah. And then we didn't have much. We're not working. So we're paying for the barrister per day. So we had the barrister, she came to the court and the case got postponed. It got rescheduled for another day.
And you had to pay the barrister.
and we paid the barrister already. I think it was about 1,000 something then. We had to get a new barrister for the new date because that barrister wasn't now available for that new date. So we got another barrister. Yvonne was there with me. We had our son, and they asked me a couple of questions on the call, and I think I had a very good barrister, and I think my case was also very tight because it was just a mistake in the fact that the proof of funds, the maintenance funds, was in my wife's account as opposed to my account. So we got into the call, and the guy from home office, the lawyer from office, went and did his thing. He was only just doing his job. It's not personal. He's trying to kick me out of the country. And the magistrate basically said, you don't have a case here, and he was like, nah, dude, stay.
Nice. So how did you feel?
I felt elated. I felt really good when we got the entrepreneurial visa, but then that opened a different can. The entrepreneurial visa is a visa that has a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
And so I felt really good, at least that I wasn't going back to Nigeria anytime soon. I will continue my journey as an economic migrant in England, and it felt really good. We went out for a nice meal, and celebrated it. It feels like a distant past, but I can remember every single step of the way now.
So pausing then for a year and a half, 18 months plus when that happened, what was the position of career? Where was your career then?
So prior to the entrepreneurial visa, I said I was working at TNT. But one of the things I did whilst we were waiting for the visa, was I started to take professional courses. So I took a couple of courses in business analysis and whatnot, went for trainings and whatnot. And so as soon as the visa came, I got granted the visa. In 2 months, I landed the job. No, I landed the job.
Okay.
I landed my first contract, my first major gig in the UK. And from there it's just been, I can't complain.
Right, I can't. I'm sure you can't complain. All right. So that's really so. As we trying to wrap up, there's something that I know you're very passionate about. You're a very conservative person, and a lot of migrants go through this journey. Then they become successful, and they do well for themselves. But again, if they're not careful, they could then get into another type of problem, which is not managing funds. What's your thought? What advice do you have for people with regards to money?
Okay, so there is a saying in Yoruba that Alejo Lowo, that translates to money is a visitor. It doesn't stay. It comes and it goes. It's up to you to try as much as possible to leave lasting memories, or lasting impression that money passed through you. And so one of the key things that I would advise people, when you come into the UK, obviously, like I always say, there's different phases in terms of being a migrant. You have the phase where it is really, really hard and terrible and painful, and you get to points when you start to regret, why did I come here? You have that phase. You have a phase where, all right, you're stable, things are a bit all right. And then you have a phase where, oh yeah, I'm really doing well. And one thing that all of those phases have in common is you have a lot of things that are being sold to you constantly in your face, and one of the mistakes we make is we are not very good at delaying gratification. As people, my people, we're not very good at delaying gratification. And so because we come from a society where some of these things have never been thrown at us before, we've never had a credit card before, we don't understand how credit works, we don't, and someone is telling you, come and take, I got a letter one day saying, come and take £250,000. Like, you get all of the things thrown at you, and you can get a phone on credit. One has to be really, really careful to make sure that you're doing things based on what you need. However, and this is me going on a rant now, In order for you to do things based on what you need to get to a point where you know what you need. In order for you to know what you need to know who you are. Where a lot of us lack, especially when we've had a similar journey to the journey that I've had, where you've lived a life where there's been no breaks in your life. You've gone to primary school, secondary school, university, serve, work, and there's been no time to really find yourself. You just go with what you're told, and you go with the crowd, and you have a sheep mentality. It's important for us to find ourselves. When you know who you are, then your decisions is based on what you need, and then you make less mistakes. Now, I'm going to put my hands up. I still make mistakes. I still make financial mistakes, but some of them are things that those are mistakes that I'm happy to make. I opened a business not too long ago. We Yvonne's cousin, a business partner, a cafe, and we shut it down. We made a loss. But that's the kind of loss that I'm happy to make. I'm happy to make that kind of loss. And I think if you want to be successful, you need to be happy to make that kind of loss. So back to your question, in order to make good financial decision, I think it boils down to self-actualization, knowing who you are, understanding yourself, and making decisions that are best for that person that you are. Now, you might change. We're human beings. We evolved from Homo sapiens to so we would evolve. So you might change, and then that your needs change, and then you meet your needs. Don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap of constantly
loading yourself with things you don't need. You get, All right, thanks a lot. And well, we're winding down now. So, what advice would you have for immigrants that are just coming into the country? Their journey is like, they're still in the Coventry, they're still at TNT, they're still doing warehouse jobs. What advice would you have for them?
Enjoy it. Enjoy every single step of the way. I'm getting goosebumps right now, thinking about the journey. I've only been in the UK for 13 years. And when I think about the journey, the cold nights, walking to the, to the factory, to the warehouse, the cold nights, in the time when I had incidents in the bus, public transport, I wish I'd enjoyed it more. Because I can't get that time back again. So that's the first thing I'll say. Try as much as possible to enjoy it. Number 2, plan. Have a plan. I never had a plan. Like I said, I didn't know what next. I knew what I was being told, but I didn't have a specific plan that was designed for me. Design a plan for yourself. Design a plan for yourself. Number 3, understand that it's a different culture. The culture that we're raised in, that we grew up in Nigeria, I don't know about other African countries and about other countries, is very different to the Western culture. However, there's elements of our culture that puts us at an advantage if we understand the culture here. So understand the culture and know the cultural differences. Know how to apply yourself with the cultural differences. Number 4, integrate. Now, one of the things that we do as immigrants is we flock together. We don't integrate into the society in England. We don't get involved with things that are happening in England. Integrate. I mean, I have friends. I have friends who came about the same time that I came into the UK, and they still don't have any new friend, non-African friend. I have friends who haven't experienced any proper UK culture. You're not involved in England as a country. It's our host country. It might not be our home country, but it's our host country. It's where we live right now. I've raised our kids in here. So understand it. Understand the culture. Understand the politics. understand how things work. That's the only way you know what works, how things can work for you. So those are the things that I think it's really, really important for us.
And I think a great point you've mentioned is on the integration part as well, because it's very easy for you to come in, kind of form connection with your bubble again and not integrate. And
Absolutely.
and those integrations is kind of where you build networks, and then
Absolutely.
some doors open differently for you.
Absolutely. You know what my career life has been like.
Yeah.
There's certain things I really don't want to say, but life becomes easier.
Extremely easier, when you do that. Demola, thank you for gracing the show.
It's amazing.
I won't have asked for anymore. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And to the audience, thank you for watching. Until the next episode, I remain your host, Olu Adejara. Thanks for watching.